I have no clue if it was legal, but I thought it was the greatest idea ever.
It's one of those things where I didn't really know what I was building when I built it.
Trying to pair up the cool Alaskan landscape with some just kind of tweaker ideas that I had playing around with flashlights in the dark. To adventure, and the filmmaking and the photography allow me to capture those moments and helps for me to share it with other people. My name's Dan Redfield, and these are my photo ventures. So I had an idea of or something of that nature. I don't even really know what I was trying to do. I just was doing it. Now I got to justify it. So I guess I could try to validate this as much as I could. The honest truth is I just wanted to go out at night and try to get some cool stuff with a kayaker. Trying to pair up the cool Alaskan landscape with some just kind of tweaker ideas that I had playing around with flashlights in the dark. The Tailrace is a location that produces power for Anchorage and has done so since the 1920s. Water comes off of Eklutna Lake and gets pushed through the energy facility, and that's what drives power to the Anchorage residents. So the Tailrace is a really interesting location because you get views of both moving water and then Pioneer Peak. Apparently this location was a holding place or a dump for old cars and trucks back in the 1950s. Filming in Alaska usually consists of summertime and wintertime. Fall time's really great too, but it's super short. No one really films in the springtime, and you can see why. When you're trying to get shots, sometimes you got to get a little bit creative, and if there's nothing in your frame and you want to add a little bit of motion or action into the frame, and you got all these leaves sitting around, just grab them, set your camera on burst mode, and just hold the trigger down and throw those leaves out in front of the camera. It's kind of fun. It turns a pretty boring picture into something pretty decent to look at. When you go out to the Tailrace, there's a pretty generic picture that every single person gets when they go out there. They walk out on the bridge, they stand in the middle of the bridge, and they fire down right towards Pioneer Peak. It always gets a lot of likes. Everybody always likes it. It's a great picture, but I always try to figure out a way to push the boundaries a little bit further or try to get a different perspective somehow. One of my favorite perspectives is shooting through the bars on the bridge. Now, I've posted this picture a ton of times. It's not very well accepted from the majority of the people, but it's something that I kind of like. I think it's cool. It offers a little bit of framing, a little bit of dimension, and photography it's meant to be subjective, and I think that's the cool thing about it is you get to express your own style and your own individuality, and I guess if we really start to talk about it, it's kind of a metaphor really for just life in general. There's this beautiful untapped nature and serenity outside, but we're still somewhat stuck behind bars in this prison of our own creation. Sorry.
Jesus, philosophizing.
One of the toys that I get to play with is called the Syrup Magic Carpet and Syrup Genie. And what it is it's a motion controlled device which allows you to shoot time lapses over a distance. Basically, it helps you to capture moving time lapses, so it'll move in small increments as you capture each frame. It's a really cool device that kind of helps push the boundaries a little bit on time lapses. There's always that time when you need to put the camera down and just enjoy your time, enjoy the scenery, just kind of take it all in. When you're filming and taking pictures, you're not really present as much as you can be. So sometimes I like to put the camera down and just, enjoy a pretty sunset, which I did. for half a second, and then I grabbed the camera and captured it. It was too pretty. I couldn't help myself.
I'm a teacher at Wasilla High School. I teach digital media. I started out, I bought a pack raft because I was going to do the whole Alaska. I'm going to go over the mountains and run some rivers out. And that was fun for a while. I had a great time with it, but I started doing some whitewater and I got the addiction. I think my class 4 or 5 days may be behind me, but I still really enjoy getting out on the water.
Once John and Ryan showed up, then it was time to get the show on the road.
My name is Ryan Marlow, and I am a co-founder of Alaska Aerial Media. It's one of those things where I didn't really know what I was building when I built it. I just knew that the technology existed, the LED cores worked, and wanted to see what could happen if we put it in with something else.
Ryan can just blow your mind with all the technical details for days, and I'll let him do that.
So the drone is an Alta 6. We're using 100-watt LED drivers powered by a 24-volt system from 13 to 15,000 lumens, parabolic lens reflector, Synapse controller, battle switch, Futaba remote, FPV downlink, thermal downlink. Definitely a technical innovation for unmanned systems. It's hard for me to understand what you heard or what I'm saying as being nerd talk or a technical talk, but yeah, I'm not too sure. Say that question again.
So he's got this big drone, and on the bottom of his drone, he has lights.
And when they fire on, it's about 60 amps.
Holy cow.
And so that's about 50,000 lumens.
So the idea was to have John in the water and then Ryan up overhead, lighting him up. It was just me filming out there, and I had a pretty long list of shots that I wanted to get, so I had to kind of map out exactly what I was going to do.
It was a tricky shot because you're looking at a drone with, only an 8-minute flight time. It looked like he was trying to shoot photos, he was doing video. A very difficult thing to do with the amount of time. It just took a lot of planning and being able to know exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to pull it off. I haven't played around or taught really any light photography or videography, so I'm really curious to see what kind of shots Dan's going to get from that.
Just keeping your tripod and your camera locked, taking your different exposures, and then in post being able to stack them however you see fit.
So the shooting at Eklutna Tailrace went perfect, and we're going to test it out. The same thing tomorrow at Portage Lake.
That was weird. Anyways, like I was saying, we're headed to our second location at Portage Glacier.
Ryan had to go to work. I needed one extra hand, so I got my friend Kyle to come out there. I saw a few pictures from people that had seen this chunk of ice that had broken off a Portage Glacier inside of Portage Lake, and basically it had floated 2.5 miles away from the glacier and made it up to the visitor center. We we talk about adventures, well, this was a pretty easy one because we literally parked at the parking lot 50 yards away, had our spot to shoot.
I kind of rolled down a little early just because, I was out of school. I didn't have anything to do. I wanted to go paddle. I got down quite a bit earlier than everybody else, and I paddled out to the glacier, which was just beautiful. Bluebird day, incredible.
If you know, but once the sun dips behind the mountains this time of year, it gets pretty chilly.
I have no clue if it was legal, but I thought it was the greatest idea ever. I just met Kyle, and it was like, I like this guy. He's got good ideas. Let's build a fire immediately.
Get your kindling started here. Create a little pocket, a little beach grass, a little devil's club, a little dry devil's club.
Yeah, I was actually stoked for myself because I actually didn't earn my fire building badge in Boy Scouts. I mean, it helped me know that I could survive if I had a lighter and kindling around, which most people could.
And I definitely, outside of everything else, wanted to pick Kyle's brain on exactly how to start one of those remarkable fires.
Can you just walk me through the steps?
Well, yeah, Dan, thank you for asking. So what you want to do first is you want to find some dry kindling.
Okay.
2 to 3 inches, little pieces of wood, kind of gets it going, and then you build yourself a little pyramid, Egypt.
Okay, sure.
Triangular thing, and then you just build it up, and then you create a furnace underneath, so to speak.
Furnace, yeah.
And then, you just keep feeding the beast.
So did you homestead in a former life, or how did you learn all this stuff? Sorry.
You basically, I just watched a lot of TV, a lot of reality TV shows, Alaskan dramas,
Like Alaska Photo Ventures.
Yeah, kind of like that show. Fabricated drama,
So one of the shots that I wanted was silhouetting John by placing a light source on the iceberg and then having John pass in between the camera and the iceberg.
So the plan before we left town had nothing to do with the packraft, I can tell you that much. He may have told me about the idea of me getting in a boat at some point, but I didn't remember. I didn't have my extra tufts on. I would have gotten wet.
We have a situation here.
Okay. What's the situation?
All the rocks and me having on tennis shoes like a dumb.
Well, look, you can easily step on that one. I'll move this one for you. Look. I'll build you a walkway. What else do you want here?
Honestly, I thought Kyle was joking when he said he wasn't going to get in the pack raft. He was like, oh, let's play it up for the camera. Let's add a little bit of drama.
You're gonna go for it once Dan walked away.
Yeah, if Dan's filming, I know how this is going to go.
Because of that, it was probably his first and last photo venture. I could always try to justify what I do afterwards, but realistically, the truth is a lot of it is just kind of playing around with stuff and seeing what works, what doesn't, and kind of adjust from there.
Dan runs a pretty loose program, which I'm into, because a lot of times you really get some cool stuff when you go out and just attempt things you've either thought about or never tried and just see what happens. We call them happy accidents.
The lights from a long ways away were casting just really kind of flat light on the glacier, and it really wasn't like adding a whole lot of drama. We would light paint using 4-second exposures, 10-second exposures, just kind of playing around to get that look that we wanted. What we found is having the headlamp from John, a real small light source, was casting really hard shadows on the iceberg. We would have him kind of paint the iceberg, and that little bit of light and the small light source caused really hard shadows, which added a dramatic effect. Typically, I'll shoot most of these episodes with my GH5. It doesn't do super great at night, so we were shooting on the Canon 5D Mark III. Because of the full frame sensor, you'll get a lot less noise.
Why did we all get into this and why did we create content? And it's because of things in times like this. We just create stuff, not 100% knowing what we're trying to get. Dan's always been really good at doing that, like trying different things. When you're there on set with somebody like that, it's contagious. You all huddle around the camera and look at the screen and giggle like schoolgirls because you know the potential. This is like pre-edit. Like he hasn't edited anything, hasn't created anything.
It was random, that's what I would say. It was absolutely, completely random. But that's been both of my adventures with Dan.
So I've always had a thing for shooting long exposure. Actually, it's one of the things that a lot of my close friends make fun of me for. But I think it's really fascinating. You get to play with time and you get to see kind of fresh perspectives on things that you wouldn't normally see with regular photography. Marrying both the idea of long exposure and the cool Alaskan landscapes that we get to see. I think the pairing worked out pretty well, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Pew, pew, pew. Not that I don't appreciate you, in the frame and everything.
Are you trying to shoot behind me?
I'm like, man, that light is great, guys.
It's like, you know what this is called? Foreground elements.
Oh, and I love it.
I'm really curious to see what kind of shots Dan's gonna get from that.
Yeah, me too.
Hang on one second.
You got the Vicky's grenades over here?
Yo, have you had one of these before? All right, ask that question again now that I've done it 3 times.
So the lights come on and I say it. Like I was saying, we were headed to our next location at Eklutna. Sorry, I f***ed it up.
Oh man, that's a loud one. It sounds like the 218 to Cincinnati. Yep.
That was too big.
Yep, definitely is. It's just me talking about, hey, it's me, Dan Redfield. I do photo adventures. Cool.
So, I mean, it was a good fire. I was impressed. I think Dan was impressed too, kind of.
My butt.
Cold. Yeah, just really soaking all in.
Yeah, definitely cut that last part about the butt thing.
Oh, that's a good one.
Dan would, when we were ready, would make an owl noise, and then we would start. Yeah, it was a young boy's scream in the deep woods that I would equate to the sound of an owl.